What is up, everybody? Welcome to this episode of the Cheese Talk podcast. I am your host, Brian, and today I am joined by returning guest, Conrado. He is out in Southern California or Central?
The Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area,
Bay Area, so that would be considered
like San Francisco area,
what part of the state? Middle, north, south,
north,
north?
north, yeah, but like
Okay.
not quite north. When people say North California, you think of like Chico and Truckee or Ukiah,
Eureka?
Eureka, exactly, yeah.
I've been
So
there. I've been to Eureka,
we're a little bit more
California.
south of that. Yeah, yeah.
I've been to San Francisco, too. I've been actually years ago for work. Well, one of my old jobs, I used to build substations for like power
Mhm.
plants. And
Yeah.
we set a building in Eureka, California. And I've been to Fremont, which is right by San Francisco,
Yeah,
kind of.
yeah.
Well, we
It's
stayed in a townhouse there, and I've been into the Johnny Carson Airport. I think it's the Johnny Carson Airport.
yes, yeah.
I got stuck there for almost a day straight because my flight I got kicked off my flight like before I got on. Somebody else, whatever. I ended up getting a flight back to Chicago like at 12 a.m. It was a crazy day. But anyways, how's it going?
Not too bad. Not too bad. Definitely been keeping busy with work, and for anyone who follows me on X or Twitter, I'm always plugging away at my basketball analysis, basketball scouting. But that doesn't mean I'm not a diehard football fan, specifically a San Francisco 49ers fan, which makes these conversations so fun, right? With a diehard Packers fan. So.
Speaking of, last time we talked, you guys had some pretty high hopes for the Niners, and what happened?
I mean, what didn't happen? I don't really like to make excuses per se. I just like to give reasons, and I think the reasons were valid. I mean, a lot of it was definitely injury related. Um, you know, Obviously Brandon Ayuk started out the season slow because of his contract holdout, and then he was basically knocked out of the season after like what I think 4 games or so. Um, Christian McCaffrey played a grand total of 2 games for us. That one I gotta say it was pretty surprising, at least in the sense that like when we had recorded, he was at training camp. He was great. He was on the active roster to start opening day, and then all of a sudden he's an extremely late scratch, and he's like gone for like the first 9 games of the season. Comes back, gets hurt in Buffalo. So I mean, yeah, injuries were an excuse, but I mean there was definitely I don't know if I necessarily want to blame it all on last year's defensive coordinator, Nick Sorensen, but the defense, like we brought back a lot of our defensive stalwarts. I mean, obviously Dre Greenlaw was out; he got hurt in the Super Bowl, but I mean, they were just a mess. They were not getting stops. They were not getting pressure. I mean, they did decent, a little bit in coverage, but so I'm saying is like, and then we had literally the worst, or I think maybe the second worst special teams in all of NFL, right? I think we were better than like what? I don't know. Who were we better than? The Jets? No, I think the Jets were better than us. See, it was that bad.
Packers.
Is that bad? No, we were 31st. We should not be bragging about this, but I'm just saying we were that bad. We were that bad. So that's what I'm saying. Like, just nothing was going right. We were not on the same page. We were not a good team. We were not a buttoned up. Especially for the talent that we had. Actually, shoot, yeah, had past tense is the correct way to phrase it now. Yeah, just definitely not a formidable playoff contender, let alone a championship contender. Like that would just be wishful thinking, which as a fan you do, but no.
Isn't it crazy to look at? Like I was bummed when we didn't like retain Devondre Campbell because like he had the All Pro year for us. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
he was like we thought he was a solution, and he just left Green Bay on a sour note. And sounds like what happened in San Fran when he walked, he just gave up. What are
Yeah.
your thoughts on that?
It's actually funny that you bring that up because I remember when we last, had a nice episode together. I asked your opinion on Devondre Campbell because I didn't understand if you, like you said, if you just look at his numbers and the accolades, it seems like he was a very productive player And yet, as you said, when he left Green Bay, it seemed to be like there's some bad blood. It was not a happy or friendly parting of ways. He had some choice words for like the team, the fans. So I was like, what is it? Is this like your guys' problem or was it his problem? And clearly the answer was it's his problem. you know, um, to say the least, I was pretty disappointed. I was, as you said, I was pretty optimistic and excited. I was excited about that signing. Like I said, I'd only known him from afar away, and just seeing him, I believe, when he was with you guys, when he was with Atlanta, seemed like a good player. And to say the least, he was inconsistent at best. And then when Dre Greenlaw was finally able to return to the team, he did not handle it professionally. You know, and
Yeah.
it's not like he was benched. It's just okay. A fewer reps since Dre Greenlaw is working
See,
into the rotation.
this is what gets me. So like when he left Green Bay, he's like, oh, I think it's aimed more towards like Joe Barry and the way he was
Yeah,
used and the way like they pushed him through injury. Hey, you have a union. Have your union stand up for you. If you get injured and you can't play, tell somebody.
yeah,
They can't. You know what I'm saying? So I just think it. He just. I, I mean, he didn't. I don't know. Like if you work for a union and I know this all too well. Hence my injuries. If you get hurt, tell your union. Make them stand up for you. That's what they're there for. They're there to represent the
yeah,
player. If you can't go out there and give it your all, you shouldn't be out there at all, risking more injury. I mean, that's at the end of the day, he has a family to look after, and just I don't know. I just think, I mean, he had a good year in Green Bay, and I don't know what happened behind closed doors, but I can only imagine.
yeah.
But
I mean, I as a fan, yeah, I'm like, dude, we don't need you. Go away. We don't want someone like that in our locker room. But on a man to man or a personal level, like I don't wish him any ill will. But
right,
I'm saying, like, he has a family, he has his own livelihood. Like, you committed career suicide, man. Like, you
yeah,
literally walked off the field with all the cameras on you. You didn't even have a great year. Do you think, like, other teams are gonna, you know, potentially have to deal with your baggage?
yeah. That's
You're in
something
the
that
ring.
I would see, and I wouldn't want to employ someone like that, knowing his potential of doing, giving up on a team.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I saw some of his tweets or whatever on IG saying like, "Oh, I'll just be fine," on to the next team. I'm not really sure there's a next team for you, but
Well, I mean, you look at we're all too familiar with here in Green Bay with Zadarius Smith.
yeah,
Man, he was a beast for Green Bay, but then he got hurt. Then he had the injuries, and then things after that kind of seemed to go downward. And then it's like he's back. He went to Minnesota. He went to Detroit. And I'm sure at some point he'll end up on the Bears. Just round off the NFC North. But I mean that whole thing too, where he wasn't named captain, and then he
yeah,
went out and got that big captain pendant on his on the chain. It's just, I mean, these guys, Eagles, it's like if they don't get, their back padded all the time, like they get like super upset and like it just not really seem like they're a team player.
yeah. No, definitely.
What is your what are your okay? So Brock Purdy, right? So
Yeah,
Mr. Irrelevant,
yeah.
correct? So at one point, it's like, oh my god, how do the Niners always get these running backs that all of a sudden like just out of nowhere just annihilate the Packers? These, like, I mean, to me, it's like Mostert or whatever his name was. He just crushed us, and running backs in the past have crushed us. This quarterback, I mean, why are they getting rid of all his weapons? Debo Samuel, I don't think Ayuk's happy there. And doesn't he want to get traded out? Sounds like.
It's unlikely he will at this point, given that like his guaranteed money kicked in like 2 days ago or 3 days ago. So I would imagine at this point he'll remain with the Niners. And to be honest, I was always really skeptical about those reports about trade interest around the league. I mean, this is a guy who tore his ACL and his MCL. He's gonna miss at the very least half of the season, like the first half of the season. And I'm being conservative. Like, yeah, I don't imagine other teams giving up like appealing draft capital or assets for a guy that
Yeah,
you don't really know, what he's going to be when he returns. And obviously, as a Niner fan, I'm optimistic. I love him. I like his work ethic. But so yeah, for Ayuk, no, I don't think he wants to go. I think he just wants to be wanted. But I don't know that for a fact. I mean, he seems to like the fan base, and I
yeah.
saw him last night at the Warrior game. He seemed to be having the time of his life. So
Was it was that against that game against the Lakers? Or was that 2 nights ago?
that was 2 nights ago. Last night was against Denver, the Denver Nuggets.
Who won?
Oh, the Warriors.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, they pulled off the back to back. Yeah.
that's against two. I mean, two two decent teams. I wouldn't call the Lakers a good team, but Denver for sure can have their moments of being bad, but for the most part, they're a really solid team.
Yeah.
Um, what are your thoughts on Dre Greenlaw going to Denver? I'm just trying to like
I
ask
mean,
you like some of these
oh
major
yeah.
pieces to your team, like what you're thinking and like how you think they're gonna do and how you guys are gonna replace them in the draft or free agency or
Yeah. So I mean, I understand, especially from outside of like the faithful, Niner Nation. I understand the optics of this Niners offseason. It does not look good. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, yes, as you said, a lot of notable players have departed in free agency. Like, they were just outright allowed to walk, some of whom were also cut. Um, for Of all of them, though, to me, not just to be like a homer, a lot of them made sense. Like their departures. Like over here, like locally, it had already kind of been discussed. Like there was a good chance they weren't returning for one reason or the other. For Debo specifically, it was always going to be like one or the other, or pops neither of them staying. That is Ayuk or Debo Samuel. Part of the reason of investing a first round pick last year in Ricky Pearsall was to have someone kind of waiting to, um, fill in at a wide receiver two spot when one of Ayuk or Debo parted. Debo, I still think he's got a lot of good football left in him. I truly wish him well in Washington, but he admits himself. At least he's saying all the right things. I have no reason to question it. It seems like he parted on good terms. It's just I think he needed a change of scenery. Um, yeah, I don't know. I think with the injuries and everything, from the Niners' perspective, his conditioning, his fitness has always kind of been a subject to monitor. He definitely did not come into this season in good shape. He had to work his way into shape. So, that's why towards the tail end, when we're already eliminated, he's putting up numbers. But so that kind of was understandable. That's why I was also saying I wouldn't have been surprised if they did trade IU. I could see them completely pivoting to a new core, which, yes, as you said, would be different for Brock Purdy. But, I don't think different's necessarily bad. Um, but going back to your earlier question, the only player who I think truly like his presence or his absence will be felt is Drake Greenlaw. Both on field and in the locker room. He's arguably like the heart, and heart and soul of the team. Um, and it seemed like the Niners wanted him to come back. Um, it seems like all those stories are lining up. Dre Greenlaw and John Lynch, that they did make an attempt to bring him back. They had a competitive offer that was comparable to Denver's. But ultimately, it seems like Dre Greenlaw wants the opportunity to be like the captain of his own defense. Whereas,
yeah.
over here, it's Fred Warner, which is kind of weird because like they are like best friends. But I get it. I mean, he's a competitor, so that one is definitely disappointing. But all the other ones, Talanoa Hafanga, even Jordan Mason, running back Jordan Mason, like I understood why they were not retained. I could also understand fans like saying, "Whoa," but like there was a little diminishing production. So diminishing production, and now we're having to pay more to keep you. Again, I don't want to sound like a 49ers front office shill, but like it made sense to me. I was like, I think it was time to start bringing in a little influx of youth, a little bit more, athleticism. So hence why, yes, the draft will be big. Um, as for free agency, I could still see them bringing in some veteran players at some key positions. If you notice, there's a lot that are still unsigned. I think they're going to wait till after like what is the deadline where it doesn't count towards your compensatory pick, right? That's the Niners thing, right? Like they always like to kind of like hoard those compensatory picks. So if they wait like another month, you know, because if they want to bring in like another veteran wide receiver, because I agree, like until Ayuk's back, right? Our wide receiver core is he'll now be second year player Ricky Pearsall, Jawan Jennings, second year player Jacob Cowing, Terrell Owens' son. Yes, this is a very unproven core, with the exception of Jawan Jennings. I think maybe Chris Conley is still on the roster. I think, but I mean, you see the names, whether it's like a Keenan Allen or you take a chance on a Deontay Johnson. I think they're going to
Yeah,
be signed closer to training camp, and at that point, they won't count towards the 49ers compensatory pick formula. So,
yeah. And like as far as like for like a little bit of like on the Packers, from my perspective, from my point of view, um, we don't have Christian Watson probably to like week 13, 14 next year or this year
yeah,
because of his knee. But I think we're going to end up keeping. I hope we keep Jair Alexander. I've been going back and forth thinking like we could get like capital for him, but I think he's gonna want to come back and prove that he's worth what he's getting, and he's gonna make a statement. I think this next year, and with the addition of Nate Hobbs, I think if we keep Alexander, it's only gonna make Nate Hobbs get better because they're gonna avoid going Jair's way, and they're gonna go towards Nate Hobbs, giving him more game reps and chance to sharpen his skill. Um, losing Josh Myers, I think with the addition of Aaron Banks from San Francisco, I think we're going to put Banks at guard. Obviously, I think it'd be smart to move Jenkins to center because he has played in that position before. I just think the Packers know how to like move around their linemen. They've been known to like move people out of position to place
yeah,
for somebody else and make it work, especially during COVID. Remember that when they had like all new linemen in different positions, and Rodgers had like the local high schools like JV team as receivers,
yeah,
and we still won games. But I think the line or the coaches are good at utilizing the linemen, especially for moving them around to fill in. I still think we need to get our edge rushers, Rashawn Gary, Lucas Van Ness. We need to get you know someone to the quarterback. Like this year,
yeah,
out of all the years that I can remember in recent memory, like where was Rashawn Gary at? Lucas Van Ness is like 12 foot tall, like 400 pounds. How can he not get to the quarterback? You know what I'm saying? It's like
yeah,
it's just. I had a buddy that sent him a message on Instagram actually, and he did respond. And my buddy was like, "Yeah, I'm a big fan of yours. Get in there and kick some ass or whatever, And like good. And he actually responded. He says, "I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. You just watch or something like that, So I'm looking for him to have a big year. Adrian Cooper, I think, play him some more. I, I just think that the Packers defense needs to get to that quarterback quicker because giving that quarterback 5 to 6 seconds to throw the ball is just I just want to jump through my front window. It's
yeah,
just it's just you can't have your defensive backs chasing around the receiver on a route for 10 seconds at a time because the receiver is going to win all the time.
yeah.
You know, but you guys got Mac Jones, right?
We did, we
What are your
did.
thoughts on him?
I mean, I do believe he's an NFL quarterback. Now, again, as a backup, I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it. I mean, I like Josh Dobbs last year. I understand his frustration. I don't understand why he was named quarterback 3. That's something Kyle Shanahan's. It's one of his. I don't know. Yeah, he has his preferences. So, I mean, given that Brandon Allen was quarterback 2 last year, I totally understand why uh, he feels comfortable bringing in Mac Jones to be quarterback 2 this year. I still believe we've at least seen Mac Jones be successful in this league. I know it was like short, but I mean he did do like he was a Pro Bowler as a rookie. He did lead his team to what 10 or 11 wins. I can't remember what it was that year. All I'm saying is, I mean, like he's a guy I at least feel comfortable being like a short term stopgap quarterback. If Brock needs to like sit out a game or two. Um, I'm still very high on Tanner Mordecai. I would not be surprised if he works his way in officially to be officially quarterback 3.
Former
Uh,
Badger.
exactly. Yeah. No, they are. They really like him. They really like, and I totally understand why. So, of course, Mac's saying, "Hey, right? Like he's a competitor. He wants to try to compete for the starting job." I mean, that would be tough, but I like it. They gave him a 2-year commitment or a 2-year deal. So I mean, like I think both parties like, hey, yeah, give Brock competition. It's good insurance.
Well, that's
Especially,
what it is too. You gotta look at the coaches. It's not always. It's so Malik. Okay, for example, so Malik Willis, right?
yeah,
Yeah, LaFleur was familiar with him from Tennessee. LaFleur used to coach in Tennessee.
yeah,
I'm not sure if Willis was there when LaFleur was still there. It might have been a year or two apart. But you bring him into Green Bay when Love went down last year. You bring a guy
yeah.
to a team, and within a week, you have him coach, or you have plays modified for him to make him successful on the field, and he won 2 games. I think it's all about the coaching and how they get certain players prepared for a game, especially the quarterback. You know,
Yeah,
it's just some guys are really good and they go to a bad coaching situation and they fall off the map. You know, so I mean,
exactly.
maybe Mac Jones would thrive under Shanahan if needed. It's
Absolutely. I mean, like if you watch, I'm not gonna lie, you know, I'm a football junkie too, just because I talk basketball a lot. I love football. So as soon as they announced that Mac Jones signed with the 49ers, of course, I immediately went and watched all of his film from this past year with Jacksonville. There's some good stuff. There's some
yeah,
good stuff. I'm like, okay, as a backup, this is cool. I can work with that. Honestly, Mac Jones and I'm not gonna lie, Zach Wilson were the two quarterbacks I thought like, okay, I thought they'd be affordable, and I really think they're the type of quarterbacks that Shanahan like, okay, he could work with that, you know.
right.
So I was like, okay, so there you go. We got Mac, totally affordable. Um, I don't hate it, but yeah, I mean, there are make no mistake, as you said, you signed Aaron Banks. The Chiefs signed Jalen Moore in terms of like our O line. So no, the Niners definitely have holes to fill. And so, I mean, if you are skeptical, I'm optimistic. But now, I mean, like given that the Super Bowl is at Levi's this year, it would have been nice, or it would be nice if the Niners have like a good shot at contending for the Super Bowl. And that is still the company line. They do not believe that this is a rebuild. It's just a retooling, a reset. Okay, I can believe that, but then I'm not sure how well positioned we are to actually making a run at the Super Bowl. Well, that's to be determined because then like you're putting a lot into this you're banking on this draft class to hit. Last year's draft class was extraordinary. That actually made parting with some of these veterans palatable, but to do it again, I don't know, right? So
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier, kind of like how all people that you guys lost and everything, and it kind of reminds me of like the Packers front office realizing that, hey, Aaron, thank you for your X amount of years.
yeah,
We got it's time. If you don't do it now, it's now or never. And Aaron's career after Green Bay has been up and down. Obviously, he's getting older. But Jordan Love, his first year as a starter was amazing.
yeah,
If that's what we can reach, if not more, every year, then hell, we made the right move. Now it's about keeping him protected and giving him the weapons that he needs to thrive. And I think with with Watson going down, we got Jaden Reed, we got Wicks, we got Romeo Dobbs. We got Mecole Hardman from the Chiefs,
Yeah.
and him for 1 year. Why not? He's like a he's like a return specialist. He can maybe make our special teams better and maybe be a second, third, or fourth receiver. This depends on how they want to utilize him. But teams like everyone's like, oh, Packers in a rebuild. Not really. We're kind of just, I mean, switching a quarterback that was it's a first ballot Hall of Famer to a fourth year that's only played a handful of games in his
Right.
career. It's
Right.
kind of a gamble, but I think they made the right choice. Because could you imagine if we would have kept Aaron Rodgers and let Jordan Love walk? We'd be like the Cleveland Browns,
I
without Aaron
mean,
Rodgers. You know,
yeah, if we're being very honest about Aaron Rodgers in 2025, I mean, like, a lot of the problems the Jets faced were largely because he's not 2015 Aaron Rodgers anymore. And who is, like, I mean, like, you don't just get younger as you get older, if that makes any
right?
sense. He's not as elusive in the pocket as he used to be. I mean, so you're saying, right, that Green Bay's the priority, one of their main priorities is to strengthen or bolster the offensive line. I mean, imagine then Aaron trying to stay upright last year and with your offensive line woes, right? So, I mean, yeah,
Yeah, and
you
like
guys
I
totally
said,
made the right choice.
you can bring in Devontae Adams and even like just to kind of take a shot at the Chicago Bears because it's always fun. You can have Caleb Williams, you can have Odunze, and you can have all these star receivers. But if your quarterback's on the ground within 2 seconds of the ball being snapped, what's
Yeah,
the point? What's the absolute
yeah,
point of having your quarterback have all these weapons if he can't throw the ball to? You know,
exactly,
so
exactly.
I think last year from the get go, I think Jordan Love he got hurt against the Eagles. He got hurt. He hurt his groin later on. Maybe they rushed him back too quick. Malik Willis showed promise. I think he has his whole off season. He's last I saw he was over in Dubai with quarterbacks like Justin Fields and some other quarterbacks training. But comes back healthy, has a maybe improved offensive line. He has all healthy receivers. He has Josh Jacobs, and we have a healthy Marshawn Lloyd. I'm really excited to see him play. I was excited to see him play last year, but
Yeah,
the injury bug got him. But I think I've seen a couple of mock drafts, and they have him taken that. Well, I've seen him as far as taking like an offensive lineman first round. I've seen him take a corner from Texas, I think it is, like
Jade Barron.
Jade Barron. Then I've
Yeah.
seen him take a book or a Bookba or whatever his name is from Ohio State, the
Oh,
receiver.
yeah,
Oh
Abuka.
my God,
Yeah,
I can already see it. If they draft a receiver in the first round, always Aaron Rodgers fans. The Packers never drafted a receiver in the first round for Aaron Rodgers. Never, ever, ever. He didn't need one. Look at what was Jordy Nelson. What was
I know.
James?
I
What was
never.
James Jones? Greg Jennings. You can go through the list of all these receivers that he had that he won a title with. They weren't a first round receiver. So what's the point of getting say the Packers had like a top 10 draft pick and they draft a receiver and he doesn't amount to anything. What's the point? You know what I'm saying? It's just you go for what you need. If you have a quarterback that can distribute the ball evenly through all of his receivers and make all the right throws, you shouldn't need a first round receiver.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
I
saying?
mean,
All their linemen they're getting are third, fourth, fifth, sixth round, like later round draft picks. So what the last high lineman we got was what Mandridge? What happened to him?
yeah.
It just these people that jump off their couch for some of these drafts are just crazy.
I think we said that when we recorded, like, a couple months ago, right? Everybody, your reaction is because you like who you like, or you have your belief of what your team needs. You're prioritizing something more than others. The funny thing is, I mean, if you ask me, as a non-Packer fan on the outside looking in, even right now, I can understand if you guys think you don't have a true number one wide receiver,
You don't
but
need one.
that's what I'm saying. You have like a lot of really good receivers. Like week to week, they're all producing. Sure, like I guess if you're just worried about your fantasy points or something like that. And I gotta admit, as a Jaden Reed owner, yeah, it was a little frustrating. However, I didn't draft Jaden Reed early in my fantasy draft. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
no, I mean they all have unique skill sets. Your wide receivers, and they all produce. Especially given like when it's maybe it's matchup dependent, but each of them has like their days, right? Whether it's Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks, Christian Watson, obviously when he's not injured. You know,
Remember this picture on Sports Illustrated?
yeah.
Is there a first round draft pick on that picture? You
I
got
mean,
Randall
what
Cobb, James Jones, Greg Jennings, Jermichael Finley, Donald Driver, Jordy Nelson. He didn't need a first round receiver.
again? All of them help me win fantasy championships. Okay, so I
But
mean,
but you go back and look at that team, they had an amazing offense, but
yeah,
their defense. You got Clay
yeah,
Matthews, Raji, Nick Collins, the GOAT, Charles Woodson. I mean, you have just a legendary defense, right? And I mean, they made huge plays in the game. Both offense and defense made huge plays in the Super Bowl. It was just crazy. It was. I'm fortunate enough to say I've been alive for two other Super Bowl victories. So
yeah,
it's amazing. But it's just you could draft somebody and they could be a total bust. With that transition from being a collegiate athlete, well, now it's more like being a professional athlete because they're getting paid. But
yeah,
the transition from pro or from college to pro is got to be such a huge undertaking for a lot of these kids. They've been under pressure their whole life, and that's I think part of the problem is that they've been told their whole life they've been so good, they're so good, you're so good, and then you get the people that are better than you. Do you step up or do you kind of fall back?
yeah. Especially, I mean, like I guess I was gonna say at any position, but I think especially at wide receiver, one, your production's not dependent on your own, right? I mean, you have to have a quarterback actually deliver you the ball. But other than that, I mean, a lot of these wide receivers, especially picked higher in the draft, they've been the man, right? They've been the number one target. They see the highest target share. You know, I guess all that's to say that you come to the NFL, can you succeed in a more streamlined role? Can you succeed on low volume? And so that's what I'm saying. I don't think I don't think you need a number one receiver or a receiver in the first round. I would be surprised if the Packers do, especially in this draft class. That would be my only objection. Like if it was last year and you guys picked a wide receiver in the first round, okay, sure, you could sell me on that. But this year, I just don't think this specific wide receiver draft class. I don't think it's particularly as good or deep. So
Well,
that's what
even
I'm.
like last year's draft class, what did we do as a team the previous year to show we needed a wide receiver number one in the first round? We did. I mean, we
Yeah,
went to Dallas and blew them out of the freaking stadium with what we
yeah,
had. We had the same group coming back the next year that has an only higher ceiling. They just barely tap through the floor. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
If you have confidence in your quarterback and that can make the good throws. You just need a receiver that can run routes and get open.
yeah.
I mean,
And you
we
guys
forgot
still have.
we never mentioned Devontae Adams. He wasn't a first round pick.
No, he
He's
was
probably one of
not.
the best receivers in Packers history.
Yeah,
It's
yeah. And plus, you guys still have. I'm right. Correct me if I'm wrong. You still have Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave, right?
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like
Oh,
of all
so
the things, I don't
I've
think
seen
receiving options are a priority for you guys.
I've
But hey,
seen mock drafts where they had the Packers taking a tight end. I'm like,
unless
what?
it's like Tyler Warren, I don't know. I don't
I think
see
it was that
that.
I think it was that kid from Michigan. Is that who it was?
Would he even be available that far down?
I don't know, but still,
Oh
it's
no!
just like,
Oh no! 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 Colston Loveland.
yeah, we don't we
I
don't
don't see
need
the point.
him.
I don't. I like Colston Loveland. I don't see the point of taking him. Yes, he probably. I would assume he'll be available late first, but
My
I
God,
don't
have
see the
have
point.
Malik Heath put on some weight and put him at tight end.
Yeah,
Work with what you got.
I know. You already have so
Um,
many like receivers that are like chomping at the bit for more snaps. So I mean, like,
and
dude,
when they're given the chance, they shine. That's
yeah,
the thing. So just gotta watch out for that injury bug.
yeah.
Um, do you think? Let me see here. What do you think about Darnold going to the Seahawks in your division without
I'm
DK?
I'm happy for him. Again, like on a just as a human, like I'm happy for him. He's a hard worker. I Same thing. Not that I like every player, but I didn't think he was as horrible, put it that way, as he was with the Jets. Like I'm not saying he's a superstar, but I was like he's a better quarterback than that. So I'm glad he got to show it this last year at Minnesota and parlayed that into his 3-year deal with Seattle. Given where quarterback contracts are, I think that was good business by Seattle. I'm sorry, like I am just completely laughing my ass off at the contract extension the Raiders gave Geno. Like good for Seattle because again, right? So he's making like roughly just kind of rounding numbers here, 33 million AAV, right? I think he signed like a 3-year, $100 million deal. Darn that is. That's fair money for like a high end stopgap quarterback, which is what he is. They don't. I don't believe they really. I don't think if you lie detector, they don't believe he's like a long term piece, right? But maybe they could win some games in the meantime until they find that guy, or who knows? Maybe he proves us all wrong. He does become that guy, like Jared Goff did. I don't think when the Lions traded for Jared Goff, they really thought he was the man. It's like, okay, he's got potential. See what he's got, and then who knows? And okay, so, but I think he'll keep Seattle somewhat competitive. As for this year, I'm not so sure. They're kind of like in the same boat as the Niners. Like, they've kind of parted with some substantial talent. Uh, Again, you have to wait till after the draft. None of their free agency moves would dictate or suggest that they're going to run the division or anything like that. So they're also kind of retooling. It seems definitely putting a lot of faith in Jackson Smith Njigba because he's like their only wide receiver. That and Jake Bobo. So but
Yeah, it was crazy to see. So you have like Darnold coming from Minnesota, where you had Addison, you had Jefferson, you had
yeah,
whoever else they had, and
Hawkinson, TJ
Hawkinson,
Hawkinson,
and then that tight end was it
and your
Irv
old
or
friend Aaron Jones.
and Aaron Jones, and so then you bring them to Seattle, then you trade DK Metcalf, you release Lockett. He hasn't proven anything with you don't even have like any like as of now any hope for like any weapons unless you get some guys in free agency that you just are really good like all of a sudden.
I mean, again, they could also be playing the comp pick formula thing, or like seeing what they can get in the draft, and then after that, jump back into the veterans, wide receivers and free agency, going into training camp. But like I said, these contracts, the way they're reported, that's all ego. You say 3 years, 100, but how much is truly, fully guaranteed? Not the injury guarantees, the fully guarantees, right?
Right.
So basically, that's like a glorified 1-year deal with dead money, in year two if you decide to cut him. So that's what I'm saying. Like a high end stopgap quarterback, cool, whatever,
Yeah.
you know.
Hey, maybe he'll surprise people in Seattle and be decent.
I guess again, if I'm being nice, cool. As a Niner fan, no. I hope he throws like 30 interceptions and stuff like that. I hope he sees ghosts again. All right.
And like even you mentioned Aaron Jones, I can't be mad at him. I can't remember if when we talked last year if the season has started yet or not.
No, it
If
was we were heading we hopped on like a week after the draft. So we were both kind of assessing our draft halls and everything like
okay,
that.
so yeah, I mean Aaron Jones like when we acquired or signed Josh Jacobs, I'm like, oh my god, Aaron Jones and Josh Jacobs in the backfield.
Yeah, I
Like
remember
no
that.
way, man, this is awesome. It lasted for a cool 45 minutes. I'm like, oh, man. But I see it. The Packers didn't want to pay him, and he thought that from what I understand, it was like a million and a half difference in money and talk, and ended up
Yeah.
cutting him, and it's just releasing him. And the one team he had to go to was the Vikings, and he did some damage against us, but whatever. That's
Yeah.
where um, we just got to get a better defense. I mean, we got we got Xavier McKinney. I think he's proved last year that he's one of the top safeties in the league. I want to see more out of Javon Bullard. I
Yeah.
want, I want to see more out of him for sure. But it sucks when some of these players that gave it their all, and even like Aaron Jones, like losing his dad and all that what happened
Yeah.
with when he was a Packer, and how much Packers and the fans supported him, and how he gave back in the area. Just to see him kind of get treated like that kind of left a sour taste. And but you realize it's a business. You know what I'm saying?
It
If
is. It
if,
is.
if you're gonna have a guy playing for you that I, money talks, and that's just how
Well,
business operates.
again, as an outsider, I do remember at the time being a little surprised that remember Josh Jacobs came off of a horrible year with the Raiders, and a large part in due because of injuries. So it's like your statement said, well, not statement, but kind of like in the media, at least you're saying, okay, part of the reason why you're parting with Aaron Jones is the injury history and having to commit another multi-year deal to someone that can't stay on the field, and yet you then immediately bring in someone who had as much of a colorful injury history. And I'm shocked. Like, I'm not going to lie. I didn't think Jacobs would hold up the way he did this season. I'm not trying to jinx him again, going into this season. I was like, wow, good for him. Because it was looking kind of bad, It was a lot of like declining production. Obviously, the Raiders, well, I don't want to call that an offensive line. Whatever the hell they had over there didn't do him any
Well, it
favors.
was offensive to the
Yeah,
fans.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I could understand, yeah, what you're saying. Like from Aaron Jones' perspective, it's like, man, you know, give it all. I got hurt playing because I was playing, and now I'm getting replaced by another guy that got hurt. So, well,
Well, even like
well,
AJ Dillon, he was there.
yeah,
So there's a vacation uh, part in Wisconsin. So like if my hand's the state of Wisconsin, like Door County's like right here, right? It's like all
mhm,
the when you go there in the summertime, you see nothing but Illinois license plates. They're everywhere, and they drive like people in Illinois drive. On to run them off the road. But anyways, they keyed him the mayor of Door County. People loved him. He just absolutely
yeah,
loved him. He was doing stuff for the community, and I think him and his wife were doing like getting like coats for the children. Him and his wife had some organization that they do, and then he got hurt, and then now he's in Philadelphia. You
yeah,
know, it just sucks. It sucks to see some of these guys um, move on. But you got to understand this. The older you get, you realize it's a business. You can't play on in Madden with the salary cap off.
yeah,
It's got to be on. You got to make smart moves. Your team's going to get obliterated. you know.
yeah. And that's why for my Niners, that's what like I kind of like. I think some of my friends or like Niner friends, they understand, but for those other fans that are like you said, very just kind of reactionary to any and every transaction, it's like if you take away the emotional aspect, and again, we're fans for a reason, right? Like being a fan is emotion, but still, if you just remove the emotion and actually look, at the production and now the amount of money going into that production, they're no longer there's no correlation. It's not a positive correlation anymore. So that's why I totally understand. Like I said, I'm okay with the Niners having moved on from a lot of these guys. The question, though, is like I think where it's fair for Niner fans to be skeptical or um, worried is we just don't have any comparable replacements yet, and
Yeah,
so that's obviously to be determined.
but you guys didn't know what you guys had in Brock Purdy until you guys gave him a chance to play.
Absolutely,
So I
absolutely.
mean, that's just how it goes. It's just um, going back to uh, just talking about random players, and one guy that the Packers did bring back was Isaiah McDuffie, linebacker, number 58. Right? I
Yeah.
have a hilarious story. I just think it's funny. So I look into things and think, oh, this could be a sign that he's not gonna be a Packer this next year. So I like to thrift a lot. Having 5 kids and trying to find deals on shoes and clothes and everything.
Mhm.
I'll thrift. And one day I was thrifting at a thrift shop, and I found a pair of Travis Matthew joggers, like a gray
Okay.
pair, right? They're like $140 pair of pants.
Yeah.
So before I knew the brand, I went to look in the at the tag on the inside, and it had the old school Packer logo. It was like an oval with like it was like green and yellow, and it had like the guy throwing the ball or whatever, and it had number 58 McDuffie. I'm like, these are his. He's getting rid of his Green Bay stuff. He's not going to be a Packer next year. I'm like, they got to keep him, man. And so I was like, yeah, it's funny because you're thinking that he's not going to be in Green Bay, then they re-sign him, and to
Yeah,
find a custom pair of his pants at a thrift store is just too funny in my eyes. It's hilarious,
that's awesome.
because there's that story years ago of a guy that found Aaron Rodgers' sport coat that he wore at the draft at
Hmm.
Goodwill, and it was authenticated. Yeah, that was his jacket, and the guy made a ton of money off of it.
Wow.
But yeah, it's crazy. This is some of the stuff that you find thrifting and everything. But I want to switch because I know you do a lot with basketball, right?
Oh, sure.
Is it NBA and college or just NBA?
NBA in college, yeah.
Okay, so what is your stance on the NIL in college sports?
I mean, there are pros and cons, or there are things I like about it and things I don't. What I do like about it is that, well, one, I mean, given how much money NCAA sports make, for themselves, for the NCAA, the institution itself, um, it's nice to see players have opportunities to make money because this is part, like your playing career is part of your earning potential. Another thing I like about it too is that not all of these players are going to be NBA players. Some of them might not really even be professional players, if we're being honest, right? But hey, if you're born like, some of those like smaller NILs that are tied to like the community and stuff like that, I mean, it gives you like, an opportunity to stay at a certain school and, make some money while you're there. I like that. Like I know there's a lot of guys that are like at best borderline second round picks, rather than go into the draft a year early and try to fight in training camp to make a roster, they stay for another year. They make some NIL money. That's cool. Go and graduate. Finish up your education. I like that. What I don't like is it's basically made college sports into professional sports. Like it's basically free agency.
Yep.
Like this is insane. I cover both the men and the women's game, right? In the women's like basketball, they have almost like just under 1,200 players entered the transfer portal. A lot of which was dictated by NIL money. Like that's insane. Like this, these schools are basically like pro teams or club teams. So yeah, I mean, I like some of it. I like the opportunity for these kids to be able to again uh, maximize their earning potential, in their lives, at least from playing sports. But in terms of what the original intention was, no, it's
That's just
already
it.
so.
You get so many nasty stories, and there's two that I could point out that you probably are familiar with the University of Wisconsin. First one was AJ Store. Like,
Yeah,
he if he would have came back to Wisconsin this year and not gone to Kansas for that money, I mean, just think of how good that team would have been. I mean, and he would have probably upped his draft stock. Now he's transferring to his eighth school. He entered the
yeah,
portal again. I mean, what an idiot! He averaged like 6 points a game, 5 points a game,
yeah.
and you got John Tonje came in from
Hmm.
Colorado State, Missouri, wherever he came in from, and look at him. He's in the running for National Player of the Year. I mean, the loyalty is what we grew up on loyalty, right?
Yeah,
And I think there's got to be. I watched college football game day. I don't know, this last year and football, and when Nick Saban was on the panel, and they asked him like what his thoughts, and the way he laid it out, he needs to be ahead of the NIL and making rules and regulations for how it's worked because you got Xavier Lucas. He was a Badger last year, a true freshman from Florida that had a hell of a year as a freshman. And all of a sudden it comes out that the Badgers, I want to enter the portal, but they're not giving me my release. And I'm
yeah,
thinking, Wisconsin, they're a pretty prestigious program. There's got to be something going on that that we don't know about. He probably violated some type of rule or something like that. And come to find out, Miami was talking to him when he was playing for the Badgers, which
Yeah,
is
same.
which is legit for the Badgers to be upset because players are getting poached.
Yeah,
There's got to be contracts. If you sign like an NIL deal as a true freshman, say you sign a 2 year contract after your sophomore year, fine. You know, you
yeah,
should you can be out of this you can be you're a free agent. Because a lot of these players, by the time they're sophomore or junior, they're declaring for the draft anyways. So I mean, I mean, there's got to be a draft. There's got to be a contract they sign, and if they violate it, then they should. If they violate the contract, they should lose a year of eligibility or have to wait that year like they used to have to do back before all this
right.
crap started. There's got to be something that's got to regulate these schools from doing what they're doing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It's
I mean,
crazy.
it is. And again, I never want to like count a man's, how much is a man's pocket or a woman's pocket for that matter. But I mean, like, uh, certain NIL, especially like with like the Power Five conferences, right? Uh, the NIL is contingent upon you signing with that school. Totally makes sense, right? Like say Oregon, right? I mean, like you're going to get NIL money from Nike because, right,
Phil Knight.
right, exactly. But the thing is in order to make it fair for the smaller schools, like the mid majors, right? NIL money follows a player, not necessarily a school. So like some kind of company or whatever franchise, like food franchise could be like, hey, right, you sign an NIL deal with us, but it's contingent you sign on this list of schools, right? Cool. But then, like, again, it just gives you that opening to be able to jump ship whenever you want, you
This
know?
is stupid
And
too. It's so dumb. I
yeah,
mean, I get the point. College athletes should be paid. Granted, 95% of them are getting free education. You know,
yeah,
that's paid for. But what if they're an athlete and they get hurt and they can't go professional? At least they have something to back them up. But there's got to be like a salary cap, like per. They got to like find averages and there's a lot of work that needs to be done. There should be
yeah.
like an average
And
amongst
that's,
like, all the teams, and there's got to be like a cap for what each player can get. It's got to be fair across the board.
prior to NIL, um, you know, it was always talked about like the hypocrisy of the NCAA, right? That they make money off of these players, but I mean, like the players aren't allowed to make a single cent. Otherwise,
Yeah.
they get like suspended or something like that, right? Like the whole Harbaugh thing. I know, you don't like him, but I'm just saying, right? The whole like
Well, the O'Bannon brothers.
exactly right.
Yeah,
But talk about hypocrisy. Look at this now. Like even just using the words that we're using, salary cap. This is professional sports now. You know,
yeah.
I still enjoy it as a basketball fan. Sure, I enjoy it, but it's not what a lot of college basketball fans or purists liked. It's gone. It's definitely
Right. So
gone.
this is I've been thinking of a way to like phrase this, and I apologize. I'm kind of all over the board, but as you mentioned,
Oh,
stuff pops into my head. So a lot of these kids are from a very young age. How do I say this without sounding weird? They're like told like oh, you're so good, you're so good. You're whatever, whatever. It's more. I think it's different on a football landscape than it is a basketball landscape because in a basketball landscape, there's less players per
yeah,
team.
right.
So, say you have this kid coming up, he's just great, and he's you know everyone has ever coached him, talked to him in public, said, "Oh, he's such a great player." Then they get to this program and they don't play. They're like,
Yeah,
"Well, I've been told my whole life something's going on. Like, what's going on? I got to go somewhere else." It's
yeah.
like they don't want to work for what they have to earn. So, you kind of get what I'm saying.
Oh, I
Like
totally understand.
this year in Wisconsin, it's crazy how lately a lot of these athletes are coming out of Wisconsin sports. It's not something that you see that I guess we're all too familiar with. Maybe more with basketball than football, but football, I guess we get all the big beefy linemen like Mark Tauschers and those type of guys, and um, but Amari Allen, have you heard of
Mhm.
him?
Yeah,
He's an Alabama commit this next
yeah,
year.
yeah.
He actually played. So I live just south. I live like right outside of Green Bay, and he played in Schwabenen, which is in De Peer's conference. So I got to watch him
Mhm.
play twice this year. Dude is a hell of a player. He's amazing. De Pere also has a guy, Johnny Kinziger, or Zach. His brother is Johnny, but Zach Kinziger, who's a Wisconsin commit, and I think Amari Allen's probably going to be like a one and done at Alabama. Just kind of the vibe I get with him. But I think Zach's going to be at least a 3-4 year player at Wisconsin.
Yeah.
It's just crazy to see like these kids and I don't even know like where I'm going with. I mean, I do know where I'm going with this, but it's just hard to see like a program get all these good players and then like after a year like they don't want to work for it. Like the Badgers, they who was that kid from Minnesota the Badgers had this last year that entered the portal? He's a freshman. He was number 5. Man,
Let me see.
but he was like all state in Minnesota. Damn it.
Yeah, but
But no, it just sucks. It's like these kids just think that they're gonna get ultimate playing time at these schools, and they don't get it, and they either transfer to a lower caliber team, a lot of these smaller conference teams, and I mean, I guess I get it. If you think you can play more time elsewhere, go for it. But a lot of these kids, like at Wisconsin, um, were a lot of the guys that stand out are walk-ons. You know,
right, right. Yeah, I mean, it's the thing is there's like a lot of, for lack of a better word, a lot of different and competing agendas, right? Like, is your goal, what is your ultimate goal for the player? And a lot of that dictates them. Is it just like, if you have the opportunity, maybe because of like your popularity in high school, you can make some money, right? Maybe you need to go to like a smaller school that's willing to overpay for you, or something like that. Uh, if you are truly a one and done prospect, right, then it's the same thing, right? Go to a high profile school that can pay you
yeah,
the most NIL, and then that's it. You
yeah,
know, I had this conversation actually with somebody the other day because even though I will acknowledge I don't think he's the best basketball coach, John Calipari, I do think he's a good coach. I understand what he did throughout his career. You know what I'm saying? Like, he was great at getting guys drafted. He is. He gets guys drafted in the first
yeah.
round, right? But then like, someone was asking me, is like, what does that matter for the school? Right? If they're all one and done, like what does that matter if we're not winning? If they're not sticking around to help us win, and that's why now like it's true. You have like all of these competing agendas, right? Like are you just trying to showcase athletes? Like for example, BYU, they got arguably AJ DeBansa, he is in the mix to be the number 1 overall pick next year,
Yeah.
right? He's
Wisconsin lost to
reportedly
him in the tournament.
yeah, he's reportedly signed like an insane NIL deal, right? I don't want to misreport it. I'm pretty sure it's above $5 million, right? Which is he's basically making another rookie salary as a one and done at BYU. But my point is like, what what is that really doing for your program? Like it'll put a lot of eyes. You'll get a lot of nationally televised games. Are you building anything? Like are you actually
But
like?
if you get continuous one and done kids and they're exciting to watch and you fill the seats,
That's what I'm saying.
that's
There you
you
go.
fill the
What
seats.
is
If you know you're going to fill the seats every year you can slowly bump up the concessions. You can bump up the cost for a ticket. You can
yeah.
bump up. I mean, it's
No, but
all about money.
that's
There's
what I'm saying. Like I totally understand that. That's what I'm
yeah,
saying. Like be honest then. What is your true goal? Because if that's your goal, you're likely going to achieve that, which is what Calipari did, right? But if you're like now fans and you're like, we're not winning anything. Like we just keep bringing all these high profile names. They're gone after a year. We're not building any chemistry. And, no cohesion. That's what I'm saying. Like the whole that was, as you said, what made college basketball so fun is that you do get to really get to know these players over the course of numerous years. You see them grow. You build a true affinity towards them. It's kind of gone now. You
Yeah, I
know.
mean, like I mentioned, so this kid from where I'm at, where he's going to Wisconsin, he's they'll have like some of the games, like the team will would stay after, and they'd all sign shirts and posters and everything, and the kids look up to these kids. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And I just, yeah, I don't know. And you get into the real world where money is the ruler of all evil, and all hell
Yeah.
breaks loose. But do you think, in a way, do you think I've always asked this question? Do you think AAU ruins college basketball or ruins basketball in a way?
Okay. Because I know a lot of my friends are gonna watch this, and they're
Well,
because
you don't have
a
to
lot of
answer.
people have no, a lot of people have competing views. I go
Yeah,
back and forth about it. I think from a developmental standpoint, which is more often what I'm more focused on. I admit it is somewhat ignorant to ignore like the politics of AAU and then college basketball, but I just tend to evaluate skill. And when it comes to skill, player development, I think AAU does a bad job of it. So from that standpoint, like you're saying, right, you're being put in a position to only do the things that you do well. They don't really spend a lot of time or even effort or putting you against other competition to improve the things you're not good at. You get to college against more well-rounded players. You are not prepared, and as you said, right, your frustrations grow. You want out because you're not willing to learn. You
yeah,
know, so I do think it kind of, which is why I know a lot of AAU coaches like don't like to hear it, but that is why, for the most part, I don't think it's stereotypical. I think a lot of European players, when they do arrive to the NBA, yes, there's always an adjustment in terms of like cultural and maybe you could say physicality or athleticism adjustment, but in terms of pure skill,
better.
no. Yeah, they are better. They are a little bit more knowledgeable of the nuances of the game. So there's that. And then again, AAU is kind of, I mean, it's a business.
Yeah,
It's a business. Like, do not tell me that this is just to showcase or put the most competitive youth basketball. No, you are funneling these kids to certain college programs to fill your pockets. So,
right.
I
And
mean,
you look at Giannis, and if the movie about him and his brothers depict what he really did growing up, I mean that's the kind of player you want on your team.
yeah,
All the crap he went through growing up, and even like Jokic, even though he reminds me of like a big alcoholic, it just
yeah,
he's who doesn't give it all of his effort, but whatever. But as far as like college basketball and stuff, I got kind of a crazy triangle story for you. So I'm originally from Oregon, Wisconsin, which is
hmm
South Madison. When I was like in middle school, Shaka Smart
oh,
was a player for Oregon in high school for the high school team. Um, his brother was in my grade, so now he's the coach at Marquette, right?
right,
And now Greg Gard is the coach at Wisconsin,
hmm
and his son played basketball at Oregon because obviously whatever Madison, Oregon is right by each other. Now there's a kid. He's a 6'7". This last year was a junior. He's going to be a senior this next year. Is like one of the top players in the state of Wisconsin.
oh
So now
wow,
you got Greg Gard offering him a contract, a,
scholarship,
a scholarship, and you got like a
yeah,
smart. So it's a big triangle between Marquette, Oregon, and Wisconsin. I think
yeah,
it's kind of cool. But I mean, this is like one of the best kids to ever come out of Oregon. I mean, I guess a kid that was in my grade, he was a walk on at Indiana back when, like in 2002, when they went to the championship game. He was on that team, but yeah, it's just crazy. But yeah, I'll have to send you a clip of him. He's
Please
like
do.
his first instinct is to dunk the ball, and
Okay.
he's just crazy. Like he'll take a shot, and if he'll anticipate the rebound, and he'll go up for the dunk. He won't go up for the lay-in. He'll go up for the dunk. Like
Yeah.
you wouldn't. It's just crazy. But yeah, it's just crazy how everything's changing, and pretty soon, how much is college athletics going to be not college athletics? Like,
Yeah.
might as well make it semi-pro and make it a business.
Essentially, yeah. I mean, that's what it
But
largely
and look at
resembles
this
now.
too. So Iowa, Iowa's whole team, the guys' team, pretty much transferred out after the coach got fired or whatever.
Yeah.
Right? Damn it, whatever that guy's name is. I can't stand that guy, by the way, especially because of the games against Wisconsin, how he always lost his mind. But the coach came in from Drake, was it? They
I
hired,
believe so, yeah.
and like 5 players from Drake
Right.
followed the coach there. That's
Yeah.
crazy. But then just what else is crazy is there's got to be some type of like, you got that Cameron Brink, which he makes 78 grand a year in the WNBA.
Yeah.
It's just some of these girls are better off staying in college all 4 years and making money off the NIL than they are going to the WNBA. Except that, like, Caitlin Clark signed a huge deal with Nike, though, right? So I mean, you got play. It's all over the place, and there's fairness and not fairness, and it's just something's got to be done to make it all fair for everybody. Outside the
It
contract deals, the
I mean,
sponsorship,
like I
I get
said, beyond what the players themselves, right? Like each of these organizations, the NCAA, the NBA, the WNBA, they all have their own individual agendas that do not align with each other. Frankly, I think it's kind of hilarious how the NCAA like always gives like flips the bird at the NBA. Like, no, you will not capitalize on any of our stuff. You know, um, but yeah, the WNBA draft is actually next week. The ladies have no time, no downtime. So tomorrow, Sunday, April 6th, is the NCAA championship game, and then a week after is the WNBA draft. So a lot. So I cover the WNBA draft. A lot of players who would have been top prospects have elected to return. Like you said, they have elected to return to college. You know, absorb that NIL money, and then just come back next year when the salary cap of the WNBA goes up. So
right. And they're saying that Caitlin Clark would have been better off, because she came out as a junior, right? She had
no,
1 year of
she came out
eligibility.
as a senior. She came
Oh,
out as
did she? Who are they talking about that they should have just stayed in college for 1 more year and made them better money in college than you would be in the
uh,
WNBA? I forgot who that
I
was.
think they're saying that about the who will be the number one pick this year's Paige Beckers from Connecticut, from UConn.
Yeah.
And yeah, technically she could get another year of eligibility if she wanted, but no, she is declaring she's coming. But no, yes, because see, the the WNBA signed a new TV deal, so they are going to be renegotiating the CBA in the next couple months, and so the salary cap will be inevitably going up by a substantial amount. So that's why the draft picks next year, they will be making more money, annually than the draft picks this year. That's just how it is. But
Well, I
for like,
mean, you get players like Caitlin Clark, and like, well, I like to bag on Angel Reese, Brick City, and so in like Paige Beckers and a lot of these girls like get like the sponsorships with Nike,
exactly,
and,
yeah,
and
they
that's
have.
that's enough to they could get. I mean, like what Caitlin Clark signed, like a $30 million deal or something like that, 28 million.
With Nike, yeah.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
mean, I get it, but yeah, a lot of these girls. I mean, even like Juju Watkins, like what's in it for her? I mean, what if she can't come back and recover from her surgery? She's going to be out at least 8-9 months.
I mean, I would imagine she'll be out most of next season, if not all of it, because I mean, she
But
got hurt in the tournament.
same
You know,
concept as Paige Beckers, though. Paige, didn't she like
yeah,
blow up both of her knees at some point in her career? Or just
yeah,
one. So I
yeah.
mean,
Ankle and a knee. Yeah.
And Cameron Brink, didn't she hurt her knee in her first year, rookie year?
Yes, she did.
So I mean, it's a lot of work to come back, and these girls should be paid for it. You know what I'm saying? It's just,
Yeah.
I,
But again,
it's
that's each organization, right? So that's
right. And then
but
you got a commissioner in the NFL that makes way too much money to make all these dumb decisions. You know, and you got Adam Silver wrecking the NBA. You know, it's
yep.
um,
Not a fan of either. I know, right? It's in vogue to like not like a commissioner, but they give you a lot of reasons not to like them, So
they do. It's like what are your thoughts on the tush push in the NFL?
I mean, in my opinion, personally, not just because I'm not like I'm a Niners fan. Like it's to me, it's not really a football move, but within the rules,
Run
I
it.
mean, yeah,
if
just run it,
if
right?
it's within the rules, do it.
I mean, the fact is that like stop it then. I mean, like, I know it's easier
Yeah.
said than done, but obviously it's a lot harder to also execute. I've seen other teams try and fail miserably. It's kind of funny, actually,
It
So
was funny during the playoffs last year. The refs told the guy, "If you do it one more time, we're just going to give the team the points. Jump off sides." You know.
exactly. Oh, speaking of which, too, going back, I just thought about like failed tush push. Like, I think the Steelers tried it with Justin Fields earlier this year, but the Steelers. So let me get this straight: you trade substantial draft capital for DK Metcalf, but you don't have a quarterback. That's insane to me.
I I think it's going to be Rodgers.
I think so. They're running out of options, right?
They
Jameis
met they
Winston.
met a couple weeks ago for like 6 hours.
Yeah, no, I think it will be. I'm just saying, like, but at the time, like, you didn't
Yeah,
actually have one in place. Like, that's
yeah.
quite a
Well, and I was
that's
saying
a bold
last year
move.
too when the Bears did whatever and got rid of Fields and he went to Pittsburgh. I said he was going to take over Russell Wilson. I said that he would take, and I think Fields did better than Russell Wilson. You know.
Yeah,
And I'm glad to see Wilson go to the Jets because let him get out there and make the Bears look like fools, you know.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, well, hey, listen, I want to thank you. I'm going to wrap things up here. We went over a little bit, but that's okay because
All good.
it was awesome. It was good catching up with you and bringing up all
Absolutely.
these talking points. And a couple of weeks, Green Bay is going to be absolutely bonkers with the draft.
Yes, we should definitely touch base after the
I'm not
draft.
going to leave. Well, I want to. There's some people that I talk to on Twitter and everything, and they're going to be here for the draft. So I'm going to do my best to meet up with them at some point
Nice.
during the week. And I don't know how close I want to get to the Lambeau Field. They're shutting down a bunch of roads around the field because they're building the stadium going across the Lambeau parking lot across the street. It's one big setup right now, and
Mhm.
during the high school state basketball tournament a few weeks ago for the girls, it's right up in Green Bay across from Lambeau Field at the Resch Center. And at halftime of one of the games, they interviewed Mark Murphy, and he said that they expect 96 million dollars in revenue
Wow.
for like the area, and for one Packer game they bring in like 16 million. So it's going to
Jeez.
be like 6 times the amount they make on one game day
Yeah,
in 1 week for the draft. So
that is exciting.
yeah, there's going to be a lot of idiots driving around, probably mostly in Illinois license plates, but you know it's. But hey, I want to thank you for being on. We'll catch up after the draft, after we get time to digest our draft picks and get our
Yes.
thoughts gathered. I will be in touch. Where can people find you at for your basketball and football takes on social media?
Yeah, you could always find me on X. My handle is actually right here in on my little name tag here, but at CP3 underscore 777. And then at the top of my profile, you'll see a link to my podcast, East Meets West. Feel free to, check it out. Subscribe. That would be great. Check out all the episodes, drop a like, drop a comment, anything, everything. They're all appreciated.
Absolutely, and I want to give a thanks to Ohana Packers Network, Iowa Joe, Mike Kawano, Aaron Davis, and the crew. Open Network for giving me the chance to podcast and talk this nonsense every week. I appreciate it. Iowa Joe, if you're listening, I still have that game day chili recipe you got to post on the website. I put up like more than a month ago, but that's okay. But yeah, and you can find me on Twitter at cheesetalk_pod, cheese is spelled with a Z, and on YouTube you can find me at Cheese Talk Podcast, all one word, where I post. I stream my videos live there, and then I do post random cool sports clips that get a lot of traction and a lot of crazy clips on there. I think I'm approaching 60,000 subscribers on there, so
Awesome.
I don't take any money in from that. I just do it for fun. So it's
Love it. Love of
it's
the
a lot
game.
of fun. Absolutely. Well, I'll let you go and go Pack go. And what's your thing for the Bay?
Go Niners.
Hashtag
Well, bang bang Niner gang.
bang bang Niner gang. What does the FTTB stand for?
Faithful to the Bay.
Faithful to the Bay. Okay,
Yeah.
I missed one word in there. Sorry, I
Yeah. No,
apologize.
you're good. You're good.
But yeah, well, it'd be nice to see the 49ers kind of retool their offense and come back and
Yeah. I will
make a
give an
push.
honest reaction when we reconvene after the draft. Like, if I think they bomb this, I will let you know. Then maybe I will be less optimistic. I'll be like, oh man, So
What would you guys do if you traded Brock Purdy and ended up getting Aaron Rodgers?
who are we trading with?
I don't know.
I mean, like, can I get like a pick from the Titans or something? Like,
Well, actually, that's not going to
the
happen
only way
because
I would entertain that is if like I'm getting Abdul Carter somehow. I'm being
there was a
serious.
video of Aaron Rodgers working out with DK Metcalf last week.
Fantastic.
So
Good.
he's going to be a Steeler.
There you go.
He can take his shrooms to Pittsburgh.
Well, we got Mac Jones. We got McCorkle. Okay.
All right, man. Thanks again. I appreciate it.
All right. Take care.
Yeah, later, man.